সেখানে তো রেকর্ডিং শুরু হয়েছে।
সাধারণ উপরে শুরু হচ্ছে। ওকে স্যার, স্টার্ট।
Okay, sir, start.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and good evening as well. I am Arindam Chakraborty, Associate Professor of Economics in the Department of Commerce, Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, West Bengal, India. Today, the Department of Commerce and Economics of our college are going to organize a 2-day international webinar on SAARC countries and COVID-19 in collaboration with the Department of Economics, Kishan Postgraduate College, Bahraich, UP, India. Hearty welcome to all the participants in this today's webinar. Now we will start our inaugural session. Now I request Sri Sunil Kumar Vishwas, President of the governing body, Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, to inaugurate today's webinar. Please, sir.
স্যার আপনার মাইকটা অন করুন স্যার। স্যার আপনার মাইকটা বন্ধ আছে, মাইকটা অন করুন স্যার। প্রেসিডেন্ট স্যার মাইকটা অন করুন। ওকে স্যার,
হয়েছে?
ওকে
হয়েছে? হ্যালো,
Okay, sir.
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
good evening, respected persons. An international webinar on SAARC countries and COVID-19 in collaboration with Department of Commerce and Economics, Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, Nadia, West Bengal, India, and the Department of Economics, Kishan Postgraduate College, UP, India. Respected Dr. Somnath Banerjee, Teacher in Charge, Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya. Respected Dr. Binay Saxena, Principal, Kishan Postgraduate College, UP, India. Respected Dr. S.P. Singha, Secretary Managing Committee, Kishan Postgraduate College, UP, India. Respected professors, non-teaching staff, members of governing body, and students, both the colleges, congratulate all of you. Also congratulate respected resource persons who are from our India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Nepal. It seems to me the respected resource persons will deliver their valuable suggestions through their lectures in this webinar. This webinar will also show the remedy of COVID-19. We should follow the advice. I am very grateful to inaugurate the webinar. Thanks to all.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Dr. Shobnak Bandyopadhyay, Teacher in Charge, Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, to deliver welcome address. Please, sir.
শোনা যাচ্ছে? শোনা যাচ্ছে?
Yes, you are audible.
Good evening, everybody. Respected President, Governing Body, members of the organizing committee, participants, dignitaries from throughout the world, I welcome, on behalf of Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, I welcome all of you at the international webinar on SAARC countries and COVID-19, organized by the Department of Commerce and Economics of Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya in collaboration with the Department of Economics, Kishan Postgraduate College, Uttar Pradesh. I think that this emerging situation, these types of discussion will definitely emerge. So, a lot of valuable inputs, a lot of valuable outputs for the purpose of addressing the post-COVID situation. I think this webinar will be successful in all respect. And I again convey a lot of thanks to all of you, and that's all.
Thank you, sir. As I have already mentioned, this webinar is being organized in collaboration with the Department of Economics, Kishan Postgraduate College, Bahraich, UP. Now I request Major Dr. S.P. Singh, Secretary of the Managing Committee, Kishan PG College, Bahraich, UP, to deliver his special address. Please, sir.
बोले हमसे कहा गया है क्या दिया?
Are you there, sir?
या सुन रहा हूँ। नमस्कार, मैं किसान पीजी कॉलेज बहराइच से एसपी सिंह। सबसे पहले आप सभी लोगों को सुधीर रंजन लाहिड़ी महाविद्यालय नादिया और किसान पीजी कॉलेज बहराइच के डॉक्टर राजवीर सिंह जी को बधाई देना चाहूँगा कि इस ज्वलंत और वर्तमान समय में सबसे ज़्यादा त्रासदी देने वाली समस्या की तरफ हम सभी का ध्यान आकृष्ट किया है। इस क्षेत्र की आवश्यकता क्या है कि दुनिया के केवल 3% इलाके में 3% जमीन पर 21% जनसंख्या का लोड इस क्षेत्र में है और औद्योगिक विकास में हम इतना पीछे हैं कि सारी दुनिया के उद्योगों में केवल 4.1% हिस्सा इन सार्क कंट्रीज का है, जिसमें बड़े देशों का कुछ ज्यादा और छोटे देशों का कम है। इस पूरे क्षेत्र के विकास के लिए सार्क की आवश्यकता जब महसूस की गई तो इस क्षेत्र के लिए बहुत बड़ा काम था, लेकिन मुझे नहीं लगता कि अपने सभी उद्देश्यों में यह संगठन दक्षेश सफल हुआ। इसको और सफल करने के लिए आप सभी चिंतकों की आवश्यकता है। यहां मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि अपनी स्थापना के समय 7 देशों से प्रारंभ हुआ और फिर 2007 में अफगानिस्तान के जुड़ने के बाद इस सारे क्षेत्र की समस्याएं और परिस्थितियां एक जैसी हैं। ये सारे देश मानसूनी क्लाइमेट और उससे होने वाली कृषि पर आधारित हैं। हम सभी एक सी समस्याओं से जूझते हैं। इस सारे क्षेत्र की जो सांस्कृतिक दृष्टि है वो लगभग एक जैसी है, एक ही मूल से हम सभी विकसित हुए हैं। इसलिए हम सभी लोगों को, मौजूद लोगों का सोच विचार और आकांक्षाएं एक जैसी, किंतु हमारा दुर्भाग्य है कि इस संगठन को जितना आगे आकर के सक्रिय होना चाहिए नहीं हो पाए। 1900 को ज्यादा से ज्यादा तरजीही तौर पर चलाएं और उसके बाद एक फ्री ट्रेड की साफ्टा संधि भी हुई, जिसमें यह उद्देश्य था कि 2006 तक ये सारे देश एक साथ सारा व्यापार कर सकेंगे और एक दूसरे की तरक्की में सहभागी होंगे। लेकिन दुर्भाग्य से ये लक्ष्य पूरा नहीं हो पाया और शायद इन्हीं कुछ कारणों से एक दूसरे संगठन बिम्स्टेक की भी स्थापना की, लेकिन वो भी अभी अपनी सफलता की सीढ़ियां नहीं चढ़ पा रहा है। यहाँ एक बात के लिए मैं आप सभी को आगाह करना चाहूंगा, यहाँ सभी बुद्धिजीवी है, पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, जिनको अपने नेतृत्व को ये आगाह करना है कि ये सारे क्षेत्र की एक सी समस्या रही है, सारे किसी न किसी कॉलोनी का हिस्सा रहे हैं और वो दुर्भाग्य, वो शोषण हम सभी ने झेला। आज से दिखाई पड़ रहा है कि एक नई कॉलोनियल पावर हम सबकी सभी को सतर्क रहने और अपने क्षेत्र के लोगों की सुरक्षा, उनकी आर्थिक स्वतंत्रता, उनकी सांस्कृतिक स्वतंत्रता पर होने वाले किसी भी हमले के लिए तैयार रहना है। और इसी कमजोरी का ही कारण यह है कि कोविड या अन्य कोई समस्या से हम उतने ताकत से नहीं लड़ पाते, क्योंकि हम अपनी समस्याएं एक दूसरे से बता करके, एक दूसरे का सहयोग लेकर के आगे चलने में हिचकते हैं। मैं आपको यहाँ ये भी बताना चाहूंगा कि हमारे तमाम सारे पड़ोसी देश जो आर्थिक रूप से इतना मजबूत नहीं है, भारत भी अभी विकास की राह पर चल रहा है। ऐसे समय में जो नई ताकतें उभर रही हैं वो अपने कर्ज के जाल में, अपने वाक जाल में और अपनी तमाम तरह की फितरतों के साथ इन देशों को एक नई कॉलोनी में डेवलप करने में लगे हुए हैं, क्योंकि उनको लगता है कि आर्थिक रूप से कमजोर करके, आर्थिक शिकंजा कस करके इनको धीरे धीरे इनकी सारी जमीन पर हम काबिज हो सकते हैं और ऐसी दशा में हमारा विकास स्वतंत्र नहीं रह जाएगा। हम आप सभी से अपेक्षा करते हैं और उम्मीद करते हैं, आप सभी विद्वान हैं, मैं विषय से बाहर का हूं, फिर भी एक सामान्य जन जो महसूस करता है कि इस समय इसको मजबूत करने की जिम्मेदारी है। तो ये घटनाएं हुई हैं। अभी आज ही मैंने समाचार पत्रों में देखा कि भारत और बांग्लादेश मिलकर के टेक्सटाइल इंडस्ट्री, जो दोनों देशों की रीढ़ है, उसको एक साथ मिलकर के दुनिया के व्यापार पर अपना दबदबा बढ़ाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। ये स्वागत योग्य है। लेकिन दूसरी तरफ एक रिपोर्ट बहुत निराश करने वाली है। कल ही समाचारों में पता चला कि दिसंबर तक पाकिस्तान में ऐसी स्थिति आने वाली है कि अनाज का भारी संकट उत्पन्न होगा। हम सभी का एक कर्तव्य है कि अपने नेतृत्व को ऐसी दशा में प्रेरित करें कि इन सारी समस्याओं से हम एक साथ मिल करके लड़ करके निपट सकें। हम जब आर्थिक रूप से मजबूत होंगे, हमारा पर्यावरण साफ सुथरा होगा, तो हम किसी भी बीमारी, किसी भी दुर्भिक्ष, किसी भी अकाल से लड़ सकेंगे। आप सभी का, विद्वानों का स्वागत करते हुए मैं ये भी बताना चाहूंगा कि आज पहले से ज्यादा जागरूक रहने की जरूरत है। एक स्वतः ताकत इस क्षेत्र में है। इन सारे क्षेत्र के लोग, सभी देशों की जनता इस प्रकार की है कि वो कठिन परिस्थितियों में जीवन यापन कर सकती है, कठिन परिश्रम कर सकती है, विकास के लिए किसी भी सीमा पर जा सकती है, बशर्ते उसको सही नेतृत्व मिले। और साथ ही साथ ये भी देखा जा रहा है कि हम सब के भीतर इतनी इम्यूनिटी है, इतनी एंड्योरेंस पावर है कि हम तमाम तरह की परेशानियों, तमाम तरह के इन्फेक्शन को झेलने में सक्षम है। हमें लगता है कोविड की इस महामारी में हमारे भीतर की यही ताकत हमको बचाने में सक्षम है। सरकारें प्रयास कर रही हैं अपने अपने संसाधनों से, लेकिन इसको मिल करके इस सारे संघर्ष को करने के लिए भारत के प्रधानमंत्री ने $10 मिलियन का जो कोष स्थापित किया था, इमरजेंसी फंड, उसमें तमाम देशों ने यथाशक्ति उसमें अपना अपना अवदान किया था, लेकिन वो कार्य आगे नहीं बढ़ पाया। ये सहयोग की राशि, एक और संकेत अभी योनो में मोदी जी ने बोलते, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री ने बोलते हुए बताया कि हम जिस भी टीके, जिस भी दवा का विकास करेंगे वो सारी दुनिया को बांटेंगे, लेकिन पड़ोसी पहले। आप किसी भी ऐसी अवस्था में जब आपको समस्या होगी तो सबसे पहले आपका पड़ोसी ही काम आएगा। यह भावना इन सारे देशों में विकसित हो, ऐसी हम सब की कामना है। इस संगठन को और इसको नुकसान पहुंचाने वाली बहुत सारी ताकतें एक साथ काम कर रही हैं। उनसे लड़ने की शक्ति हम आप जैसे विद्वानों से मिलनी है, और हम सभी का यह दायित्व है कि हम अपने अपने क्षेत्र में इस दिशा में प्रयास करें। यहां पर हम एक बात और बताना चाहेंगे कि हम सभी के नेतृत्व में यह चीज पूरी दृढ़ इच्छा शक्ति नहीं दिखाई पड़ती है कि हम इस समस्या से लड़ने के लिए सब एक साथ मिल पाए। हमें अपने नेतृत्व को इसके लिए प्रेरित करना पड़ेगा और मजबूर करना पड़ेगा। इस सारे इलाके में तमाम बाइलेटरल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स भी है। अफगानिस्तान के साथ पाकिस्तान की सीमा का विवाद, भारत का पाकिस्तान के साथ सीमा विवाद, ईरान से दूसरे टेंशन, ये सारी चीजें मिलकर के इस क्षेत्र को, विकास को अवरुद्ध करती है। हम सभी विचारकों को मिल करके कम से कम इस दक्षिण एशियाई क्षेत्रीय सहयोग संगठन के लोगों को इस चीज से बाहर निकलने की आवश्यकता है। एक टेररिज्म और नारकोटिक जो तस्करी है वो भी इस क्षेत्र के विकास की सबसे बड़ी बाधा है। इससे भी सभी को मिल करके लड़ने की आवश्यकता है। हम लगातार इस दिशा में, विद्वान गण इस दिशा में प्रयास कर सकते हैं, रास्ता दिखा सकते हैं, और तभी हम महामारी के साथ साथ इस देश की, इन देशों की पिछड़ेपन से लड़ पाएंगे। इस क्षेत्र में जो प्रोजेक्ट्स का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है वो भी बहुत स्लो है। चीजों को घोषणा होने के बाद सही समय से न पूरा किया कर पाना, ये भी इस क्षेत्र की समस्या है। हमारे कुछ देश, मालदीव और श्रीलंका जैसे, टूरिज्म में इस कोविड के कारण आई, महामारी के कारण आई हुई जो गिरावट है, उसके कारण आर्थिक रूप से परेशान हो चले। तो अलग अलग परेशानियों से अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में समस्याएं हैं, लेकिन रहन सहन लोगों का एक जैसा है, लोगों की समस्याएं एक जैसी हैं। इसको एक साथ मिल करके हम एक दूसरे की ताकत समझेंगे। अच्छे संकेत मिल रहे हैं कि लोगों को इस अकाल के समय, इस कोरोना काल में आई आर्थिक मंदी और बेरोजगारी के समय एक दूसरे का हाथ पकड़ करके चलने की आवश्यकता है। हमारे बीच जो आपसी मनमुटाव और जो आपसी तनाव है उसको दूर करके सारा प्रयास, सारी शक्ति इन लोगों की शिक्षा में, स्वच्छता में, रोजगार देने में और इसी तरह से जो स्वास्थ्य संबंधी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है उसको बढ़ाने में किया जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि एक महामारी तो ये है, लेकिन इसके अलावा भी तमाम सारी महामारियों की बाढ़ इस क्षेत्र में रहती है, जिसका बहुत कुछ कारण यहाँ का भौगोलिक भी है। यहाँ की जो नम मानसूनी जलवायु है वो तमाम तरह के बैक्टीरिया और कीटाणुओं को पालती पोसती है। तो ऐसे क्षेत्र में जहां इनकी भरमार है, अस्थायी रूप से हम स्वच्छता को और जो मेडिकल फैसिलिटीज हैं उनको ज्यादा से ज्यादा बढ़िया बेहतर बना करके, और सबसे बड़ी बात कि लोगों को शिक्षित करके कि कैसे इस महामारी में या दूसरे किसी समस्या के समय हम कैसे अपने को सुरक्षित रख सकते हैं। बीमारी आने के बाद लड़ना ये तो सरकार की मदद की आवश्यकता है, लेकिन हमें बीमारी से बचना है, हमें इन्फेक्शन से बचना है और अपना काम भी करना है। क्योंकि यहाँ इन क्षेत्रों की समस्या एक ये भी है कि इन सारे देशों में महामारी तो है ही, हालांकि उसको अपने स्तर से लड़ा जा रहा है, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ आर्थिक परेशानी के कारण जो स्थिति आई है, सबसे बड़ी भयंकर बेरोजगारी, दैनिक मजदूरों के बीच सबसे बड़ी अराजकता, क्योंकि उनके रोजगार छिन गए हैं, छोटे मोटे उद्योग धंधे बंद हो गए हैं। तो सरकारों को और हम सबको और आपस में मिल करके इन दोनों चीजों से लड़ना है। कोविड से तो लड़ना है ही, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ लोगों की आर्थिक विपन्नता से भी लड़ना है, ताकि हम अपने लोगों को बेहतर जीवन स्तर दे सकें। इस दिशा में आप सभी का प्रयास सराहनीय है और मुझे उम्मीद है कि इसमें आने वाले तमाम सारे वक्ता इस दिशा में लोगों को प्रेरणा देंगे और एक दूसरे को दिशा दिखाने का प्रयास करेंगे। यह क्षेत्र सांस्कृतिक उन्नति का केंद्र रहा है, यह क्षेत्र शिक्षा का केंद्र रहा है, लेकिन कुछ कारणों से आपसी तनाव और निरंतर होने वाली कलह के कारण इसने बहुत नुकसान उठाया है। अब और नुकसान उठाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। और विशेषकर एक अंतिम बिंदु में फिर से दोहराना चाहूंगा कि हमें नए जो कॉलोनियल पावर्स हैं उनसे बचना है, क्योंकि इनका उद्देश्य हेजेमनी और बैंड बैंगलिंग जैसी चीजों को करके अपने संस्कारों को, अपनी संस्कृति को, अपने सारे कल्चर को हमारे ऊपर थोपना है। हम विविध संस्कृति वाले लोग हैं, अलग अलग धर्मों वाले लोग हैं, बौद्ध धर्म हो, इस्लाम धर्म हो, हिंदू धर्म हो, जैन धर्म हो, तमाम का उद्गम इस क्षेत्र में हुआ है। और हम सबको ये सारे बैर भाव भुला करके इनके इस हेजेमनी और बैंड बैंगलिंग से बचना है किसी भी स्तर पर, क्योंकि जो चीजें आ रही हैं वो हमें लगता है सभी विद्वानों को स्पष्ट दिखाई पड़ रही होंगी। हमें एक बड़े संघर्ष के लिए तैयार रहना है और उस रास्ते में ये कोविड महामारी या आर्थिक दिक्कतें जो आ रही हैं, सबसे एक साथ मिल करके हम सब लड़ने के लिए तैयार है। आशा है आप सबके दिशा निर्देश में ये काम आसानी से सफल होगा। सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
Thank you, sir, for your nice deliberation. Now the introductory address on the theme of the webinar will be presented by Dr. Srilata Vishwas, Assistant Professor and Head of the Department of Economics, Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya. Dr. Srilata, please.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our two-day international webinar on SAARC countries and COVID-19, organized by Department of Commerce and Economics of Sudhir Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, Noida, West Bengal, India, in collaboration with Department of Economics of Kishan Postgraduate College, Bahraich, UP, India. Today we have three honorable resource persons from three different SAARC member countries. First of all, I would like to introduce today's presenters. First speaker is Professor Dr. Mohammad Abdul Wadud, Department of Economics, University of Rajshahi, Bangladesh. His topic is Trade and Economic Development in SAARC countries. How much does COVID-19 matter? And second speaker is Maheshika Disanayak, Senior Lecturer, Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Rajarata University, Sri Lanka. The title of her paper is Tourism Recovery and Resilience During COVID-19 Outbreak, the perspective of SAARC countries with a special emphasis on Sri Lanka. And today's last and final lecture is presented by Dr. Khalid Mustaq, Associate Professor, Institute of Agriculture and Resource Economics, University of Agriculture, Faisalabad from Pakistan. And his presentation is on COVID-19 and agriculture, scenario of SAARC countries with special reference to Pakistan. In fact, we are all aware about the sudden global economic disruption caused by novel coronavirus since the last 6 months, and during this pandemic period, lockdown policy and social distancing policy severely affect our economic as well as social activities. Almost all the sectors of the global economy experience devastating impact of coronavirus. Agriculture sector, travel industry, financial sector, global stock market, hospitality industry, imports dependent countries, sports industry, event industry, entertainment industry, oil dependent countries, all are incurring huge losses, and consequently unemployment becomes a serious problem. Again, health and education industry, the two pillars of our society, badly affected, though the private hospitals provide their full support to the government in terms of equipment, isolation wards, and workforce, but the health sector is bound to face challenges. And coronavirus outbreak also affected pharmaceutical supply chain. Essential drugs are in short supply because about 60% of world's active pharmaceutical ingredients comes from China. And in case of education industry, importance of online education and distance learning increases, but the reality is that only a small percentage of the world education is taught online. So different policy measures such as monetary policy measures, fiscal measures, public health measures, and human control measures have been adopted around the world to cope with the coronavirus-induced global recession. And finally, we are very glad to arrange such a webinar because it will help us to understand and realize specifically the current socio-economic scenario of our neighboring countries. So now I'd like to hand over this technical session to Dr. Arindam Chakraborty to continue the webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Srilata, for a nice introduction about the basic theme of the webinar. So, with this introductory note, the introduction session ends here. Now, we will start our technical session. At the outset of the technical session, I have some announcements. This session will be moderated by myself, and if there is any internet issue pertaining to myself, the session will be moderated by Hirak Roy, Associate Professor in the Department of Commerce of our college, or by Dr. Sanut Kumar Biswas, Librarian of our college. Secondly, if you have any question, all the participants are requested. If you have any questions, so please drop the questions in the chat box, either in the Google Meet chat box or in the YouTube chat box. We will take up all the questions during interaction itself, and try to speak at the time of deliberation of the speaker or at the time of interaction. So please use the chat box so that we can handle the session smoothly. And everybody here is requested to keep their audio muted, excepting the speaker. All the audio should be muted so that we can hear our speaker clearly. It is my request to all of the participants here. And lastly, the feedback link will be provided at the end of tomorrow's valedictory session. So please don't request us to share the feedback link in technical session. In today's technical session, there are three resource persons from three different SAARC countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. And our journey will be from east to west. So the very first speaker of today's technical session is Professor Muhammad Abdul Wadud from Bangladesh. I personally am very much thankful to Wadud sir. Actually, I have got immense help from him in organizing this webinar, and I take this opportunity to convey my sincere thanks and gratitude to Wadud sir. Now, let me present a brief introduction of Professor Wadud. Professor Dr. Muhammad Abdul Wadud is associated with the Department of Economics, Rajshahi University, Bangladesh. He did his Masters in Economics from Rajshahi University and PhD in Economics from the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom. He has 26 years of teaching experience. He has to his credit a wide range of research works. His papers have been published in, among others, Applied Economics, Journal of Developing Areas, Indian Economic Review, Pakistan Journal of Applied Economics, Journal of Bangladesh Studies, Economics Bulletin, Bangladesh Economic Studies, Empirical Economic Letters, Empirical Economics Review, Journal of Institute of Bangladesh Studies, Bangladesh Journal of Political Economy. He has been serving as the Managing Editor of Empirical Economics Letters, a monthly international journal of economics since 2002, and Empirical Economics Review, a quarterly international journal of economics since 2007. He led to and worked in various research projects funded by RDRS, DFID, SANDI, IFC, Institute of Microfinance, and the World Bank. He visited USA, UK, Australia, South Korea, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, Nepal in various capacities. He is member of various national and international professional associations of economics. Today, he will be speaking on trade and economic development in SAARC countries. How much does COVID-19 matters? Please, sir. Wadud sir, please. You may start your proceedings, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Arindam. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can.
Thank you,
Sir.
Dr. Arindam. And thank you for inviting me to give some talk. Respected organizers, resource persons, and dear participants, good evening to you all. I would like to welcome everybody to my presentation. The title of my presentation is Can you see this slide, Dr. Arindam? Hello, can you see this
Yes,
slide?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Visible, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. You just start the slide presentation, sir. Yes,
Is it
yes.
okay now? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So the title of my presentation is Trade and Economic Development in SAARC Countries. How much does COVID-19 matter? Now, we all know that the pandemic COVID-19, which is also called the novel coronavirus, it spreads out 215 countries and territories across the globe and 2 international conventions. This virus was first detected in Wuhan, China in December 2019. The outbreak of COVID-19 was announced a public health emergency of international concern by World Health Organization on January 30, 2020, and a pandemic on March 11, 2020. As of 30 September 2020, more than 33.92 million cases have been reported in 2015 countries and territories, resulting in more than 1 million deaths. COVID-19 has no border, boundaries, religion, race, ethnic group, and culture. Table 1, here you can see the table 1. Table 1 shows the COVID-19 statistics of South Asia. Among the South Asian countries, India has highest number of cases identified and deaths reported, followed by Bangladesh, although Pakistan has deaths greater than Bangladesh. Bhutan has the lowest number of cases identified with no deaths reported. In South Asia, more than 7.5 lakhs cases are identified and more than 1.11 lakh deaths are reported. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected almost every country, both socially and economically, in different magnitudes and weights. This unprecedented pandemic has impacted, among others, GDP growth, poverty and inequality, wealth concentration ratio, employment, especially informal employment, business, especially small and informal business, travel and tourism, macroeconomic, microeconomic aspects, and international trade. It has disrupted the global economy and world trade, mismatching production and consumption around the world, and hence caused the largest global recession, both global, social, and economic, since the Great Depression of 1920. Economic growth, poverty, inequality, wealth concentration, among others, is likely to decelerate in South Asian countries. In this table, in table 2, we can see the growth scenario in South Asian countries. And not only that, this pandemic causes up to 10 million people across the globe to fall into extreme poverty and 130 million people in global famines. For example, poverty and wealth status of India in 2019 is shown in the next table. But before going to next table, let us now look at this table 2. So we can see here that the growth performance, or we can say that the GDP growth rate as percent of GDP is declining for each and every country in South Asian nations. And in South Asia also total, the GDP growth rate is also declining or declines. In this table, table 2, this is an example in case of India. So in this table, poverty and wealth status of India in 2018 is shown. Poverty, inequality, and wealth concentration rate are likely to be affected adversely because of this pandemic. So in this table, you can see the poverty status in India. Poverty rate at $3.2 a day is 60.4%. Poverty rate at national poverty line 21.9%. Rural poverty rate is 25.7%. Urban poverty rate is 13.7%. Income share held by lower 10% is 3.3%, and income share held by highest 10% is 31.7%. And it is expected that this deadly pandemic can cause these rates to decline again and to decline severely, affecting the poor people of the not only in India but also other South Asian and developing countries around the world. This pandemic forces to postpone different types of events like political, social, cultural, sporting, and religious occasions and events, creates widespread supply deficiencies. This COVID-19 pandemic necessitates shutting down educational institutions partially or fully, with many institutions switching to virtual or online teaching. Severity of the effects of the COVID-19 on the economies across the globe makes the Great Lockdown the worst decision since the Great Depression, and far worse than the global financial crisis of 2008. The South Asia, consisting of 8 countries, possesses about 2 billion population. This country is likely to face the worst performance of the economy in the last 40 years since because of this COVID-19 pandemic. All countries in this region, especially Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, have adopted several strict courses of actions to control the spread of the virus. National and local lockdown, in which bus, train, air travels have been stopped, has been postponed. That causes disturbance to chains of supply of goods and services, and hence ability of and access to basic items of food and other things. If the spread of COVID-19 continues, restrictions on movement prolonged or reemployed, and disruptions to economic activity caused to continue, the recession could be longer and deeper. It might become difficult to business enterprises to repay debt. High-risk aversion attempts may raise borrowing costs, and defaults and bankruptcies may arise in financial crisis. South Asian economic growth will continue to decelerate given this scenario of downsizing. Among the South Asian countries, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and Maldives are termed as the small South Asian countries, and most of them are classified as middle income countries, while the Nepal is categorized as low income. These countries are characterized with accelerated levels of external and domestic debt, generally low levels of foreign direct investment. External sources of revenue such as garments, textiles, apparel exports contribute heavily to the economies of these countries. The economies of Maldives, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan highly depend on tourism. The COVID-19 has had impacts on incomes from exports and tourism as well as remittances negatively and severely. Therefore, we can say that weak healthcare system, loss of trade and tourism, diminishing remittances, depressed capital flows, and stringent financial conditions amid debt cause negative impacts on the economies of South Asian countries. From economic viewpoint, the cost or consequences of COVID-19 pandemic can broadly be classified as microeconomic, macroeconomic, and trade cost, which we can discuss in the following slides. Microeconomic cost linked to COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic causes some microeconomic costs, which individuals, households, firms, and other institutions like health centers, health facilities providers, schools, hospitals, clinics, health workers, and the government carry. With this pandemic, household and families need to bear diagnosis and treatment costs, transport costs, and other related costs. In many cases, they need to incur co-payments. In South Asian countries, out-of-pocket health expenses are more than 60% of current health costs. The COVID-19 pandemic has aggravated the burden of out-of-pocket health expenses. Informal employment constitutes the major portion of total employment in South Asian countries. The contagious nature of the COVID-19 pandemic has forced to close restaurants and bars, hotels, tourism businesses, and other hospitality institutions, making disruptions in informal employment and hence causing higher informal unemployment, impacting significantly and negatively their sources of livelihood. Thus, the COVID-19 effect has impacted on other South Asian countries with a higher informal sector remains more remarkable and crucial. Lockdown and consequent closure of many business firms and enterprises has caused productivity loss. Even organizing companies like sports, events, conferences, symposiums, and accommodation companies have also incurred loss in revenues because of the postponement or cancellation of such events. Travel enterprises, especially airlines, have incurred loss in their revenues because of cancellation of flights in order to avoid infection and keep the environment clean and safe. Physical and mental health is seriously affected owing to self-isolation and lockdown. These are some of the microeconomic costs linked to the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. Let us now look at the macroeconomic cost of COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected macroeconomic aggregates like GDP, inflation, and unemployment rate. For example, efficiency of goods and services caused by a decrease in productivity or decline in imports from the pandemic affected countries would cause a rise in inflation. Decline in exports because of export or import restrictions may cause farm shutdown or downsizing the production of farms, leading to the laying off of workers, which creates unemployment. The stock and financial markets are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has affected revenue generation, both direct and indirect, of the government of the not only the South Asian countries but other developing and some of the developed countries in the world, because of a decrease in economic activity due to lockdown and movement restriction. Let us now come to the trade costs due to COVID-19. We all know that international trade, exports, imports plays significant role in boosting economic growth. It poses this COVID-19 poses a threat to international trade and is likely to erode the gains made towards trade liberalization over the last few decades. Its adverse effects on trade are projected to be more severe than those of the 2008-2009 global financial crisis, because it has impacted both aggregate demand and supply, leading to the disruption in global value chains, especially in the trade of essential goods and services. Hence, the collapse in the production activity as well as the breakdown in logistics network has severe implications for producers and consumers in various countries. In addition to the effects of the global financial crisis, the restriction in movement on account of social distancing has further restricted the availability of labor and transport, leading to shutdown in various dependent sectors of the global economy. Of these, the worst affected countries will be the most vulnerable, least developed countries that remain over-reliant on international trade in goods and services. The world trade is expected to fall between 13 and 32% in 2020 as the COVID-19 pandemic disrupts normal economic activity and life around the globe. Before the outbreak of pandemic 19, a decelerating trend of world trade was observed in 2019 because of the US-China trade war and increasing protectionism in advanced economies. Due to the contagious and infectious nature of the COVID-19 pandemic, countries across the globe have been forced to shut down international borders and impose constraints on mobility of international flights, cargo, and transport, except for movement of basic necessary goods, including medicines, medical apparatus, and food items. Some countries have placed interim export restrictions on food items, medical apparatus, equipment, and medicines, mostly to alleviate critical scarcity in their domestic markets. Borders closures and cargo movement restriction and other restrictions on trade. World Trade Organization anticipates a sharp decline in world trade. The government of the countries of South Asia, like the governments of other developed and developing countries, undertake lockdowns and other strict steps and bans which have cast negative influence on the economy in general and international trade in particular of these countries. These economies are encountering increasing challenges because of termination of export orders. Countries which depend on a small number of products for foreign trade and limited market access, as well as lower chance of obtaining substitute markets for products domestically and internationally, face the challenge severely. Among the South Asian countries, Bangladesh heavily depends on ready-made garments, accounting more than 84% of exports, and mainly relies on US and the European Union markets. We have terminated import orders of garments of about $1 billion from this country. Global garment retailers and brands cancelled or suspend orders worth about $3 billion because of COVID-19 pandemic. This causes to lay off factory workers, which fall in social and economic vulnerability. Handicraft sector in Nepal, apparel, leather, handicraft, carpet, games and jewelry sector in India, textile sector in Pakistan, and apparel sector in Sri Lanka similarly face cancellation and suspension orders from buyers too. Therefore, these countries are likely to fall in difficulty in earning expected gains, employment prices, and payments to workers. Restrictions on trade and disruption in supply chain could cause problems in food security in some areas in the region, although agricultural markets seem to be well supplied. World merchandise trade volume decreased by 14.3% in the second quarter of 2020 over the previous quarter in seasonally adjusted terms. If we look at this figure, then we can easily see that the world merchandise trade is falling down because of this deadly COVID-19 pandemic. Economies across the globe implemented strict lockdown measures throughout the period to combat the spread of COVID-19, which led to the sharp decline in trade volume, which is evident in this figure. world merchandise exports also decreased by 15%. All regions recorded declines, with exports falling most sharply in South Asian countries. South Asian countries. All regions recorded decline, with exports falling mostly in North America, minus 24.5%, South and Central America, and Asia's export fell the least, minus 5.3% and minus 6.1% respectively, as the Asia began to re-emerge from imposed lockdowns and demand for its inputs rose. World imports contracted by 13.6%, with Europe recording the steepest decline. So if we look at this diagram, which is shown on the screen, we can easily realize that the South Asian exports are also deteriorating sharply. Travel restrictions and border closures have been an important part of the initial policy response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and these measures have directly affected trade in goods and services. These have disrupted, as we said, freight transport, business travel, and supply of services that rely on the presence of individuals abroad. Transports and travel costs constitute an important part of trade costs, and depending on the sector are estimated to account for 15 to 31%. Travel restrictions are therefore likely to account for a substantial increase in trade costs for as long as they remain in place. Freight transport service performance is crucial to trade cost in manufacturing. Since the beginning of COVID-19 crisis, maritime and land transport have remained largely functional, although they have registered sometimes considerable delays. But air freight transport has been severely disrupted, with global air cargo capacity sinking by 24.6% in March 2020. Many governments are trying to do as much as possible to keep trade flowing, but in some regions, travel restrictions have the potential to disrupt the regional trade and livelihoods severely. Tradable services that rely on physical proximity between suppliers and consumers, such as tourism, passenger transport, or maintenance and repair services, have been severely impacted by trade restrictions and social distancing, and have seen a prohibitive increase in trade costs. The disruption in business travel, which plays important roles in establishing and maintaining trading relationships, as well as in managing global value chain, is also likely to affect both business and professional services and manufacturing production. Although this will depend on how possible it is to substitute e-interactions for face-to-face communication. The quality of information and communication technology infrastructure and digital preparedness will thus be important factors in how well economies cope with the pandemic shock. Estimates suggest that trade policy barriers and regulatory differences account for at least 10% of trade costs in all sectors. Products essential in the fight against this pandemic have been the introduction of mostly temporary import facilities and export restrictive measures. The pandemic the former pushed down trade costs while the latter raised them. Nevertheless, both types of measures have covered a small share of global trade. High levels of uncertainty magnify the impact of trade costs on international trade. In the first quarter of 2020, for instance, a widely used measure for the global level of uncertainty was 60% higher than the levels triggered by the Iraq War and the severe acute respiratory syndrome SARS outbreak in 2003. Uncertainty reduces the appetite of firms to invest into new trading relationships, and the increase in uncertainty may also result in trade finance contraction that is likely to take a particularly heavy toll on emerging and developing economies. Therefore, we can say in sum that transport and travel cost, disruption to freight transport, disruption to personal and business travel, trade policy cost, and uncertainty are some of the crucial and some of the important factors which have been affected by this deadly, unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic, and this has severely in some countries and moderately in other countries affected the international trade, affects the exports and imports as well. So, in conclusion, we can say that the COVID-19 pandemic has sunk the economies of South Asian countries. It has learned as the resilience and dynamism of the economies of the South Asian countries. An overall decline in economic growth, which is manifested, has had impacts on the livelihood of the people in this region of South Asian countries. Crucial and high priority actions are required to undertake to tackle the adverse consequences of the pandemic on health and the economy, save vulnerable people, and achieve recovery. Policies leading to the strengthening healthcare services, helping reignite growth with sustaining economic activities, must be followed to promote fundamental engines of economic growth once the crisis of the COVID-19 abates. Cooperation and coordination in policies, programs, actions among the countries are very much indispensable to alleviate the socio-economic losses caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and reignite all aspects of economic recovery and growth. The leaders of the South Asian countries have already met together at a virtual meeting on March 15, 2020 to talk about the paths and ways to tackle the various impacts of COVID-19. A stronger and greater regional cooperation among the countries of South Asia is significant to handle and recover the effects of the COVID-19 crisis as well as to rebound the economy. Effective processes and policies in the wake of COVID-19 would assist to harness the prospects of sub-regional cooperation in an efficient and sustainable way. With this little saying, I would like to finish my presentation, but before finishing, I would like to express my thanks and gratitude to the authority, especially Arindam Chakraborty, for inviting me to deliver this talk, and I also encourage to arrange more and more talks about this matter to conscious our people, our policymakers, and our officials to find out appropriate policies to tackle the impact of COVID-19 policy, COVID-19 pandemic. So thanks to everyone for patience hearing. Thank you everybody. Thank you, Arindam.
Thank you, Wadhu sir, for your nice presentation. It has been a very insightful lecture presented in a very sketchy way. You have vividly portrayed the impact of COVID on trade and economic development of SAARC countries, sometimes even going beyond the SAARC countries. You have also suggested measures to tide over the situation. Thanks again for your excellent presentation, sir. Now the session is open for questions. If you have any questions, the participants, you are requested to drop your question in the chat box if you have any. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Okay, Wadhu sir, as there is no question. No, sir, there is lot of compliments, praises, and appreciations in the chat box, but there is no question as of now.
Is me, Dr. Khalid Mushtaq. My appreciation is for Professor Abdul Wadood. You know, he's my very old friend. We were together back 2000, you know, when we were doing PhD in UK. So it's a really very nice presentation, Professor Wadood.
How are you? You are fine?
I am fine. How about you? It's really a very knowledgeable presentation, you know. How is you, Andy and Chakravarti? Everything is okay with you?
Yeah, everything is okay. I am very pleased.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I am very pleased to see you, you know, after a long time.
Yeah, it's nearly 2 decades now. It's nearly 2 decades now.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am very happy to see you on this screen, and it is very nice. And
okay, thanks.
For us in future, we shall also meet and we shall also talk.
Inshallah. Why not? Why not? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, colleagues, sir, you have presentation tomorrow, na? Okay, now, thank you, Wadhu sir. Now, I would request Maheshika Dishanayake for her presentation. Now, let me present a brief introduction of Maheshika Dishanayake. Maheshika Dishanayake is Senior Lecturer in the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Faculty of Management Studies, Rajarata University of Sri Lanka. She did her Bachelor of Science in Tourism and Hospitality Management from Rajarata University of Sri Lanka and Master of Science in Management from the University of Sri Jayewardenepura, Sri Lanka. Now she is doing PhD in Lincoln University, New Zealand. She has publications in national and international level journals and edited volumes. Today, she will be speaking on tourism recovery and resilience during the COVID-19 outbreak, the perspective of SAARC countries with a special emphasis on Sri Lanka. Now the session is handed over to Maheshika ma'am. Maheshika madam, please. Maheshika ma'am, are you there?
Ayubowan, can you all hear me?
Yes, please. Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you all can hear me now. Dr. Chakraborty.
Yes. Yes. You're audible, ma'am. Your presentation is visible also.
Thank you very much. Organizing committee and the resource persons and all the participants. Wish you all a very good evening. And before starting my speech, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Chakraborty for inviting me for this prestigious occasion. And also I would like thank for Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya for organizing such a valuable webinar, which is the high time for us to talk about these COVID-19 impact and how these regional countries are handling the situation. And therefore, I think it's a very good initiative that you have taken from the Department of Commerce and Economics, from Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya. And as Mr. Chakraborty said, I'm going to talk about tourism industry, because when it comes to Sri Lanka, tourism is one of the major sector in the local economy. Even the previous Professor Abdul also mentioned that Sri Lanka is highly depending on tourism industry. That's true. So therefore, I'm going to talk about how these COVID-19 outbreak is being affected on Sri Lankan tourism industry, and what initiatives the government has taken and what should be taken according to my opinion. I'm going to give some suggestions as well. That's what I'm going to present you today. And before starting my presentation, I would like to talk about the country first. I hope you all are familiar with Sri Lanka. It's a beautiful island surrounded by the Indian Ocean and blessed with many cultural and natural attractions, and also with the valuable written history, which is older than 2,500 years. So it's a very good destination for tourists all over the world. Even the UK, the United Kingdom, has identified Sri Lanka as one of the best holiday destination in 2020. So talk about the tourism factors. I'm going to give you a small idea about the country. The country has the government type is Presidential Republic, and the capital is Sri Javardhanapura, and the commercial city is Colombo, and the country has a total land area of 24,212 square miles. It's a small island, as you can see, and also population nearly 2 million is there here in Sri Lanka, with comprising with many ethnic groups, and also the literacy rate of the country is recorded as approximately 92.5. And also, I would like to draw your attention on the recent updates of COVID-19 situation here in Sri Lanka. On 30th September, that means yesterday, so far we have total confirmed cases, 3,380 cases were recorded, and but for now active cases are only 137. And for yesterday, there were no any new cases recorded, and currently under investigation in hospitals, like PCR tests and everything. We have 38 patients here in Sri Lanka, and also 3,230 patients have been discharged from hospitals after recovered from the virus, and also 13 deaths were recorded here in Sri Lanka so far. So when comparing with the countries all over the world and also in the SAARC region, I think Sri Lanka is in a kind of a controlled situation now. I also want you to have your attention on fatality rate of the SAARC region and also the global. So in the region, we all are in a position where the global the rate is higher than the other countries in the SAARC region, but except Afghanistan, as you can see, Afghanistan, they have 3.71% of fatality rate. The global rate is 2.98. And Pakistan, they record 2.07, and India 1.56, and Bangladesh, they record 1.45, and Nepal 0.63, and Sri Lanka 0.38, and Maldives 0.33, and Bhutan, they haven't recorded any death so far. So this is the current situation of the SAARC region. And also, if we look at these recovery rate, when it comes to recovery rate, again, the region is in a kind of a controlled situation, especially the Sri Lanka. We have 95% recovery rate approximately, and it's because the health sector and the commitment of the general public, and also the health sector and the triforces, media and the government, they all played a crucial role in controlling this situation. And also as a result of that, we believe that we have a comparatively higher recovery rate here in Sri Lanka, but also in Maldives, India, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and the Nepal also having more than 70% recovery rate in the region. And also, since I'm going to talk about the tourism industry, tourism is an industry which is highly vulnerable to external threats. We can say any fluctuations in economies or any cultural changes, social changes, natural changes, everything is affecting to the tourism industry. People sometimes hesitate to visit the places where something unusual is happening, or vice versa also can be happened. Sometimes people encourage to visit when something unfamiliar is happening. So whatever it is, the industry is highly vulnerable to this type of situation. And we know when we talk about a tourism industry, the industry is comprising with many subsectors like hotel industry, travel industry, airline industry, event industry, entertainment industry, transportation industry. Likewise, all these sub-industries or sub-sectors contribute to the overall tourism industry. When we say tourism industry, the industry can't function by its own. All the other supportive sectors, supportive industries, even financial sector, the health sector, education sector, all these sectors are linked with each other, and especially with tourism industry. So a country's tourism industry playing a vital role, and it is not only in Sri Lanka. We all know that all the South Asian countries like India, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, Maldives, all these countries are depending on tourism industry in different extents. Some countries are highly depending, severely depending on tourism industry, while some countries are there, they are the severity is a bit less than the other countries. However, I would like to grab your attention on the global scenario as well before talking about the Sri Lankan context. So here in the tourism industry currently accounts for 10% of global GDP and 330 million jobs in 2019. But according to the World Tourism Organization, the international tourist arrivals will be declined by 60% to 80% in 2020. So it's a huge amount. As you can see, the almost entire tourism industry is expected to be collapsed due to this global pandemic. And also, as a result of that, a loss of 850 million to 1.1 billion international tourists in numbers will stop traveling around the world. So as a result of that, again it says a loss of US dollars 910 billion to US dollars 1.2 trillion in export revenue from tourism will be lost to the world. So it's a huge impact to the entire world, not only to SAARC region, not only to Sri Lanka. And also it is mentioned that 100 to 120 million direct tourism jobs at risk, and majority would be in Asia. That means we can be the victims of this situation. And also when we say this 100 to 120 million jobs, it's only the direct tourism jobs that they have counted, the World Tourism Organization. And when we talk about the informal sector or indirect tourism sector is having more than this number job opportunities they have lost. And also it is believed that once the outbreak is over, it could take up to 10 months for the industry to recover. We can't expect industry to recover itself or recover at once the outbreak is over. So it will take time. So during this time, we need to have some mechanisms or some strategies to lift up the industry, which is crippled because of this global pandemic. And when we pay attention to the SAARC countries, it is the World Travel and Tourism Council. They estimate that the tourism sector contributed 6.6 of the region's GDP and also 47.7 million jobs in 2019. So again, it's a considerable amount when it comes to SAARC countries as well. And tourism job losses have unequal impact on women, youth, and indigenous people, especially when it comes to this Asian region. The majority of the industry is highly depending on the these women, youth, and indigenous people. So they are whenever they are losing their jobs, I mean these parties, women, youth, and indigenous people, their impact is very significant. So the government or the relevant authorities should pay attention on these demographic sectors. And also, I would like to pay your attention on how these tourism contributes to the employment to these SAARC countries and the contribution to the GDP. So according to the chart, you can see Maldives is having a severe dependency on tourism industry because nearly 60% of employment opportunities have been created through tourism industry in Maldives. And in Sri Lanka, 11% of the job opportunities are being created through tourism related jobs. And also Bhutan, they have nearly 34%. And when we talk about their contribution to the GDP, again we can see Maldives has the highest GDP contribution from the tourism, which is more than half of the total GDP, because as a result of that, these countries should have very good resilient strategies to recover these industries to retain sustainable and to secure their economies. And next to then I have included some statistics about the potential loss to GDP in 2020 due to this COVID-19 outbreak. Again, you can see the Bangladesh 2.03 billion potential loss to GDP is being recorded US dollars. And just like that, all the countries, Bhutan 2.2 million, India 43.4 billion, and Maldives 700 million, Nepal 460 million, Pakistan 3.64 billion, and Sri Lanka 1.99 billion of US dollars will be lost due to this global pandemic. And also the employment opportunities or the jobs which are at a risk in the formal sector is also identified. And remember that this formal sector is presenting these figures, but when it comes to informal and indirect sector of the tourism industry is much more higher than these figures. So most of the people who are engaging in tourism activities, tourism related jobs, they are now at risk. So the relevant authorities or the government should pay their attention for the betterment of these sector. And again, since I'm going to talk about the Sri Lankan tourism, I would like to pay your attention on the Sri Lankan tourism sector as well. As Professor Abdul said, tourism is the third largest foreign exchange earner in Sri Lanka after the apparel and the foreign remittance, and direct contribution to GDP record in 2019 was 4.3. And also the number of international tourist arrival to Sri Lanka recorded as nearly 2 million in 2019, even after the terrorist attack occurred on April 2019. And also average duration of stay in Sri Lanka for international tourists normally lasts for 10 days. And also the total employment generation records nearly 400,000. And also top 5 source market to Sri Lanka has been identified as India, United Kingdom, China, Germany, and France. So the impact on the tourism industry in Sri Lanka is mainly due to the airports and other ports of entries were closed in 18th March 2020 due to the COVID-19 outbreak. As a result of that, all the international travels were stopped from March 2020, and still we haven't opened all ports of entries to Sri Lanka. So that is the biggest impact to the country, and all the other consequences have been occurred due to this reason. And on the other hand, the other main reason is the country's top 10 source markets of international tourism have been severely affected by the COVID-19 in both in terms of spread of the virus and also the mortality rate. Therefore, here in Sri Lanka, tourism is facing a very difficult situation than the other countries in the world. As you can see here, the statistics are, I have included how these situation is being affected to Sri Lanka tourism industry. In January, February, and March, we were experiencing less number of international tourists than comparing to the 2019. The same statistics have been shown in this chart as well. And these are the top 10 source markets that Sri Lanka has identified for first 3 months of 2020. India is recording 89 and 89,357 arrivals, which mean approximately 17% of international tourism is coming from India. And then United Kingdom, Russia, Germany, China, France, Australia, United States, Ukraine, and Canada, respectively, having their portion as top 10 source markets. So when we are looking at these countries, it is obvious, or it is we already know that most of these countries, they are being severely affected by COVID-19 outbreak. And as a result of that, Sri Lanka, we can't expect these countries to generate international tourism into Sri Lanka in near future. Therefore, we need to have some strategies apart from these countries, or some promotional strategies to attract or pay attention on new source markets. So as I told you, the major impact that we experienced here in Sri Lanka is the people who are engaging in the tourism industry, they lost their income sources because of this situation. But the government has taken many initiatives to recover up to some extent. These parties, they are now in the process of government mechanism for recovering these sectors. For an example, cash grants, tax reliefs and extensions, loans and loan repayment support, rules alleviation, license of fee waivers for businesses, retain tourism workers to support health crisis. These are some of the initiatives that the government has taken. When we talk about these retaining tourism workers to support health crisis, here in Sri Lanka, the majority of the tourist hotels now are being used as quarantine centers. So the people who have the affordability, they can stay in these hotels during their quarantine period by paying a amount. The people who are coming to Sri Lanka, I mean the workforce that we are having overseas, and also extending visa period for foreign employees and tourists stranded in Sri Lanka due to port closures. That is also one of the good initiative that Sri Lanka has taken during this lockdown period. The extending the visas of foreign employees, especially the Chinese workers here in Sri Lanka, and also the international tourists stranded in Sri Lanka. Their visas were extended during this period. And also many training programs and awareness programs for the employees in tourism industry have been done during past few months, which is also very good initiative done by the government and other relevant authorities, because most of the people, even some of the employees in the tourism industry, they haven't lost their jobs, but still they don't have much thing to do. So without making them idle, the government and other the authorities, they are going to give some training and awareness about the COVID-19 outbreak and how they should behave in future when the pandemic is over, or at the recovery stage. Again, the tourist inflows start to happen here in Sri Lanka. So these are the things that so far the government has taken in a brief. But when we talk about recovery and resilience, I would like to pay attention on a few major points. Since the country is highly depending on tourism industry, we need to have some strong mechanism, because without a tourism industry, the country's economy, it's very hard to sustain. And the first step should be rebuilding consumer or travelers' trust and confidence, because this is a deadly virus. So no one can play hide and seek or something like that with these type of viruses. Therefore, if we are going to open country for international tourists or even for domestic tourists, we need to make their trust. We need to build up their trust and confidence about the Sri Lankan context. For that, the government has taken few initiatives to ensure the safe and security of the international and domestic tourists. One of the thing that the government has done is introducing a comprehensive operational guideline with health protocols. This document has been circulated among all the tourism stakeholders despite of their size, whether they are large-scale international hotel chains or whether they are small type of homestay units. All the sectors in the industry is now being aware about this operational guideline, and the guideline basically includes arrival and departure procedures, airport and travel options within the country, and guidelines for accommodation, tourist facilities, travel operators, tourist attractions, and responsibilities of local authorities when interacting with tourists. So once the stakeholders are reading these operational guidelines, they can have a very good idea of how they should behave and what protocols should be taken when the tourism is bounced back here in Sri Lanka. And the other thing is COVID-19 safety compliance certificate for hotels by SLTAD, Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. That is also a very good initiative that the government has taken. They have selected 4 international audit firms with global experience in health and hospitality to work under the Ministry of Health. So these 4 international audit firms, they conduct some audits in these tourism related organizations, and they give the certificate. So the first round of the inspection to be at the government cost. That means the hotel owners or restaurant owners or whatever the tourism sector, these entrepreneurs, they don't have to pay for these audits for the first round. But if they are failed in the first round, for the second round, they have to pay. And without having this certificate, they won't be able to perform in the tourism industry. It would be an illegal thing. Therefore, this is again very good initiative. To do it in free of charge is also a very good decision, because these people, this sector, these stakeholders, they are not in a position to afford this type of additional cost in this pandemic situation. And also, all tourists will be required to stay in COVID-19 health safety compliant accommodations. That would be a must, and it doesn't matter whether they are 5-star hotels or small homestay units. And also their tours are arranged by certified travel agents only. So this is also a very good initiative along with this certification process. So the people, all the stakeholders in the industry will be secured from this virus. And also has developed all-inclusive Sri Lanka tourism app, which is in the final stage of launching process. Is to receive the cabinet approval. Once the approval is received, it will be launched, and the first edition of the app will be included a basic COVID-19 related information and arrival information of the tourist. And also this project is funded by UNDP, and the version 1 will be launched a little later, and that would be much beneficial for tourists, since it will enable travelers to automatically contact police in case of an emergency, and also manage Google Maps and buy tickets, contact tour guides and rate service. So this type of app would be much beneficial for tourism oriented countries, because it's, when we talk about tourism, people are moving from one place to another. So if one COVID affected tourist is tracked or identified, there should be a mechanism to identify where they have been before. So this app will help the relevant authorities to track them easily, what they have done and where they have been stayed likewise. So again, it's a very good thing that the government has done. And also working closely with the Ministry of Defense. The Ministry of Defense is playing a very crucial role in controlling this COVID-19 situation. And also when it comes to tourism, the tourist police card stationed across the country to further ensure the safety and security all of the travelers. There will be tourist police officers available in many tourist attractions and destinations. In this light, a comprehensive survey has also been carried out to understand the readiness of tourist entities and employees in welcoming tourists back to Sri Lanka. That is also very much important. And Sri Lanka received the Safe Travel stamp recently, and it is among the latest destination, I think, to begin using this world first ever global safety and hygiene stamp launched recently by the World Travel and Tourism Council. So once a country or destination is received this Safe Travel stamp, so the potential travelers can get the idea that this particular country or destination is practicing global safety and hygiene standard. Their confidence, their trust will be automatically increased when a destination is having these safe travel stamps. So Sri Lanka is now having this stamp, and the potential travelers, they can visit Sri Lanka once the ports of entries are opened without any hesitation. And the second thing that I want to highlight is we know that this the global pandemic is spreaded all around the world and is speeding much than we expected. And as a result of that, we need to pay attention on promoting domestic travels first. If we are going to start tourism again, we can't go directly for international tourism. Instead of that, we need to pay attention on domestic travels, and then gradually we can go for regional tourism and then for international tourism. That is my second opinion in this regard. And as I told you, the regional cooperation towards restoration is very much important, especially when it comes to these SAARC countries. We need to have close coordination among ourselves when it comes to tourism operation, so that as a region we can fight with these deadly virus. So when we say this regional cooperation, there can be many ways, or there can be many strategies that can be applied. So I have even Sri Lanka, we have already started to have some kind of bilateral meetings was held with the Indian ambassador to Sri Lanka to look at new avenues of partnership to invite tourists from India who are interested in Ravana Yatra and Buddhist tourism options offered by Sri Lanka Tourism. This niche tourism option also will play a vital role, and also these neighboring countries, we can help each other to restore the industry together. And also Sri Lanka Tourism held a webinar to brief Pakistani top tour operators on COVID-19 situation and the way forward for Sri Lanka tourism. Just like that, we need to have these type of bilateral agreement and cooperation among ourselves to restore the tourism industry in the region. So when we are going to restore these cooperation, we need to have this strategies. For an example, establishing travel bubbles or corridors. These travel bubbles mean this allow countries in the region to put in place protocols for opening up channels for air travel on a reciprocal basis. I think Australia and New Zealand, they are now having this kind of a travel bubble. So these two countries are traveling to these two countries and establishing these safe zones bilaterally or among a group of countries. It can be two countries or a group of countries with similar recovery trajectories would build focused capacities to safely manage the flow of tourists and allow testing of the framework for reopening on a large scale at a later stage. So that is a very good initiative that can be done in Sri Lanka. We haven't done this thing so far, but soon the government and the relevant authorities will take initiatives to impose these type of travel bubbles, especially among the regional countries. And also sharing statistics, data and research findings, that is also very important. Especially this webinar itself is a very good initiative, so the different countries can share their experiences, share their statistics, data and research findings, which can be beneficial for all of us. So even in tourism sector, we can share these type of statistics and data and research findings with each other, especially the visitor arrivals, their trends, because especially the spending and the travel patterns, travel behavior has been changed after this pandemic. So once the country is identify certain type of new travel behaviors, it can be communicated to other countries as well in the same region. So it would be very much beneficial for all of us to share these things. Also, sharing aviation data could help determine more efficient and profitable regional air routes and potential new routes to destinations that have been poorly served. So to recover the industry, we need to have this type of sharing information mechanism as well. And facilitating access among the regional countries, we can have these type of facilitating access, like removing visa restrictions or improving access infrastructure, aviation deregulation, or easing border crossing formalities within the region or among between two countries. We can have these type of facilitating mechanism to increase the inflow of international tourism to Sri Lanka or any other country. And also, as I mentioned before, majority of the top 10 source markets have been severely affected from the COVID-19. Therefore, as a country, we need to go for new source markets as well. If you can see these figures, the Japan, for an example, which is in the same region, Asia, the Japan, their outbound travel in 2018 recorded as 18 million. So, but when it comes to Sri Lanka, only 0.27 have been arrived to Sri Lanka. So there is a good potential to attract these Japanese tourists into Sri Lanka. And also Taiwan, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand and Hong Kong also having the same, they have very good outbound travel sector in their countries. But the arrival to the Sri Lanka is very less when comparing with other countries. Therefore, we need to have strong mechanism to attract these new source markets as well, because the existing source markets are now suffering from this pandemic. And also, apart from these three major actions, we need to pay our attention on niche tourism as well. For an example, Ayurvedic or indigenous medicine. all the countries in the SAARC region, most of the countries, we have our own indigenous medicine systems. We can easily promote these medicine to international tourism markets. So including these type of medical tourism or spiritual tourism, wellness tourism, these type of niche tourism concepts should be identified and promoted, because mass tourism can't be applied for a certain time period. And also crisis communication is also playing a vital role, especially among, as I told you, in the region, and also the virtual tours. Since there is physical distancing and other the safety protocols, people are hesitating to visit some destinations. But still, if we can sell our tourism attractions in the digital channels, by using digital channels, again we can have some kind of resilience or recovery from these crises. Therefore, promoting virtual tours also is a very good initiative that can be applied by the countries in the region. So those are my suggestions and the things that Sri Lanka has already done. So I think you have gotten kind of an idea how Sri Lanka is facing this situation and what initiatives have been taken and what initiatives to be taken likewise. And also finally I must say that the South Asian region is comprising with enormous natural and cultural assets than the other parts of the world. So these natural assets, cultural assets, we can use these things to promote tourism. And also a strong pre-COVID domestic and intra-regional travel demand was also there. So we can go back to these domestic and intra-regional travel option before moving to mass international tourism. So therefore, this is, of course, this is a kind of a pandemic, this is a crisis, but still, this is an opportunity for us to go for new source markets, to identify new tourism concepts. Likewise, therefore, this opportunity should be seized and rebuild more productive and resilient tourism sector in the SAARC region. So that is my conclusion. And if you have any clarification, you can just ask me. And also, if anyone is interested in how Sri Lanka is handling these tourism recovery and resilience, I have made several YouTube videos with my students with different sectors in the tourism industry, how they are handling the situation. You can just log into these videos and get a very comprehensive idea of how these things are happening here in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much. And finally, again, Dr. Chakraborty, I should extend my sincere gratitude to you for inviting me for this valuable event, and I hope all the participants, you get an idea of how Sri Lanka is handling this situation.
Thank you, Monisaka Madam, for your enriching presentation. Your lecture has truly made us understand how badly the tourism sector has been affected by COVID-19, not only in Sri Lanka, not only in South countries, but in the globe as a whole. We have also figured out how COVID tourism sector can be revised from the states, particularly in Sri Lankan perspective, and also the initiatives taken by the government in Sri Lanka. It has been very enlightening one. Now the session is open for questions. There is a question for you, ma'am. Yes, the question is posed by Hida Troy, Associate Professor in the Department of Commerce, Sudhiranjan Mahavidyalaya. Madam, can you say how the tourism industry people are maintaining their life now? is there any government support for them in Sri Lanka, or they have shifted their profession? Should I repeat?
Sir, could you please repeat the question?
Yes, I am repeating, ma'am. Madam, can you say how the tourism industry people are maintaining their life now? Is there any government support for them in Sri Lanka, or they have shifted their profession?
Yeah, the majority of the Sri Lankan, tourism employees, they have temporarily shifted to some other sectors, like let's say transporting or something like that. But again, the government has also taken some initiatives to give them some kind of incentives during this period, and also some loans and their investments, some relief period have been imposed, and some people are there, they are not permanently shifted from the tourism industry. They are expecting tourism industry to be restored. Until then, they are doing some part-time and temporary jobs here in Sri Lanka.
Okay, ma'am. There is an observation for promoting regional tourism. Sri Lanka, Naveen Akhtar, please mute yourself. The observation, ma'am, for promoting regional tourism, Sri Lanka, preferential arrangements should be established among SAARC countries. This shall lift up Sri Lanka embassy should promoting tourism on regular intervals. This is the observation.
Sir, still I couldn't hear you clearly. If you can just type the question.
Okay, I am repeating. I am repeating, ma'am. Okay. This is an observation from Indian Ahmed. For promoting regional tourism, Sri Lanka preferential arrangements should be established among SAARC countries. Visa lift up. Sri Lanka embassy needs promoting tourism on regular intervals.
Still, I think I didn't hear you clearly. Please, can you just? If you can send me a written form, it would be very easy for me to address the question. If it doesn't bother you.
Okay. Mr. Naveed Akhtar wants to ask your question. I request Naveed Akhtar to please unmute your audio and ask the question directly to the speaker. Mr. Naveed Akhtar, please unmute your audio.
Yes, sir. I am Naveed Alam from Agriculture University, Faisalabad, Pakistan, Punjab.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Please tell me about COVID-19 positive impact relation with environment.
You mean the environment or tourism sector, the positive impact?
Positive impact, advantages of positive impact of on environment, COVID-19.
Okay, in tourism industry, we have several positive impacts as well, especially when it comes to destinations carrying capacity. Most of these destinations were overcrowded for a longer period of time. But due to this COVID-19 outbreak, these destinations had a very good rest. So now these destinations, especially these natural attractions, now they have been restored into their original state. So it's a very good and positive impact that we had due to the COVID-19 outbreak. People stopped traveling, people stopped visiting these places, and as a result of that, the the destinations and the attractions, they were restored within a very short period of time. And also, if you can remember, the ozone layer of the globe also had a very good restoration capacity during this lockdown period, because all the transportation and other relevant factories and these commercial activities were stopped for a certain period of time. As a result of that, the pollution was decreased, and as a result of that, these ozone layer was restored. And here, even in Sri Lanka, we had the experience, the conflict between elephants and people in the villages. That also reduced up to some extent during this lockdown period. So these are kind of a positive impact that we experienced during this pandemic period, especially the lockdown period. I hope you got the answer.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Sir, you can proceed. Yes.
Chaudhary, sir, can I ask you one question?
Yes, Mr. Sir, you can ask the question.
Ma'am, I observed the Sri Lankan's situation is better situation in the case of the COVID. What is the reason behind it at present moment?
Yeah, the main reason that we had is the strong leadership, and also the government and the as I told you even before, the triforces and the police and the health sector and media. These three parties linked with each other, and they act at once. I mean, especially when the first COVID-19 patients were reported here in Sri Lanka, all the schools were closed, because just like the other SAARC countries, even here in Sri Lanka, most of the people, they live with their grandparents and other elders. Therefore, the spreading of the virus to these elderly people were restricted due to the closure of these schools at once. And that is a very good initiative that the Sri Lankan government has taken at the beginning. And also, the government has created a special task force regarding the COVID-19 outbreak. So this task force is comprising with all the medias, the triforces and the health sector. And also, especially preventing rumors is also played a very good role in controlling this situation, because with the social media usage now, there is a high trend of spreading rumors, the false information. But in this government, we have several responsible spokesperson, and the people tend to listen to them only. So that also a very good advantage for the country when controlling this situation. And also imposing curfew strictly also played a vital role in controlling this situation.
Generally, what will happen if the COVID cases is lower? It means its negative impact goes on the economic sector and other social sector will be low. And what is the situation about its impact? Generally, if you observe the India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, we adopted the lockdown measure, and then after we have a major negative consequences in our economy. And what is the situation in Sri Lanka?
Even here, even in Sri Lanka, we have some negative impacts, but the government and other relevant authorities are taking initiatives to make it bounce back to the normal situation. That's the main thing, and the commitment of the general public and also the government sector is playing a vital role. I think it's not only the government, but also the general public is also having a very good commitment towards preventing this disease and uplifting the economy again. So that is one of the main reasons, I think, the commitment of the people, and of course the strong leadership.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sir. There is a question from Rajveer Singh, Associate Professor of Economics, Kishan PG College. What strategies is to be taken to tackle a slowdown in tourism sector? What strategy is to be taken to tackle the slowdown in tourism sector?
Mr. Chakraborty, I think your connection is somewhat difficult for me to understand. That's the reason I can't get the question.
Okay, I am repeating the question, ma'am. This is the question posed by Dr. Rajveer Singh, Associate Professor of Economics, Kishan PG College. His question is, what strategy is to be taken to tackle slowdown in tourism sector?
To tackle slowdown in tourism sector?
Yes.
Okay, so the main thing I think that we can do is promoting domestic tourism, because at this moment we can't expect international tourists to visit Sri Lanka. Instead of that, at the initial stage, we need to promote domestic tourism. That we have already done. Now here in Sri Lanka, even though all the airports and the harbors are closed, within the country, the tourism is occurring. The domestic tourism, people are traveling as usual. So as the second step, we can go for regional tourism. Like Asians in Asia, Europeans in Europe, Africans in Africa, likewise, because of the virus, we can't still go for another region, because the impact, we don't still know whether it is 100% secured or not. So as the second stage, we can go for intra-regional tourism. And once the a successful vaccine is introduced, then only even after like 10 months, even I have mentioned it in the presentation also, we need to wait like 10 months before totally going back to the previous position. I hope the
okay, thank you, madam. There are no more questions for you, but there are a lot of appreciation and compliments for you in the chat box. Thank you for your excellent deliberation. And now it is time to request third person of the day. The next speaker of this session is Dr. Khalid Mustar. Let me present a brief introduction of Dr. Khalid Mustar. Dr. Khalid Mustar is currently working as an associate professor in agricultural economics at the Institute of Agricultural and Resource Economics, University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan. He completed MSc in Agricultural Economics from the University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan, and did his PhD in Agricultural Economics from the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom. Dr. Khalid has about 2 decades of professional experience. He has worked as a nominee director of Security and Exchange Commission of Pakistan at Pakistan Mercantile Exchange. His vast experience includes his services as consultant at the IFC World Bank, Economics, Chief Economist, PND Department, Government of the Punjab, agricultural economist at the National Institute of Banking and Finance, State Bank of Pakistan, Islamabad. Joint Director, Agriculture Credit Department, State Bank of Pakistan, and Scientific Officer and Head, Transfer of Technology Section, Central Cotton Research Institute, Multan, Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Livestock, Islamabad. In addition to that, several research papers, articles published in peer-reviewed journals and other scientific activities enriched his professional achievements. Today, he will be speaking on COVID-19 and agriculture, scenario of SAARC countries with special reference to Pakistan. I hand over the session to Police Sir. Sir, please.
Yeah, please, Chakravarti. Andren Chakravarti, thank you very much for the introduction. Really thankful for you and the management team for giving me this opportunity to discuss some of the findings about agriculture of Pakistan. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on I'm trying to share. Are you listening me?
You are audible, sir.
Are you listening my voice?
Yes, sir. You are perfectly audible, sir.
Yes, sir.
And can you see the presentation as well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You just click on the slide presentation, sir. You just click on the slide presentation, sir.
On the presentation.
On the slide presentation, sir. Just click on.
Slide presentation.
Yes. It is visible, sir, but you just.
Can you see that presentation?
No, sir. No, sir. Sir, आपकी वीडियो आ रही है, presentation नहीं show हो रही.
Yes. Yes.
How I can?
It is visible, sir.
Video is there, but I'm trying to upload the presentation. Where is the problem then coming,
No, sir, your presentation is visible, but you just click on the slide presentation. You just click on the slide presentation, sir.
Just click on the
slide presentation. Then your
no. Which option I have to use? To on the very right side.
Yes, there is a slide image. Just you click on the slide, sir. There is a image. There is an image, sir.
I am trying to share.
No, sir.
Yeah, I try to share. Yeah, it comes to me. Slide share, but I receive the message. You are presenting your.
Sir, at the lower bar there is a slide symbol, sir. At the lower bar, there is a slide symbol. You just click on the symbol.
On the?
At the lower bar, sir. At the lower bar. At the lower bar there is a slide symbol. You just click on the slide presentation.
Sir,
No,
or click F5, sir. Please click F5. For presenting, click F5.
A5.
F5 button, sir.
A5 also does the
A5.
F5 button.
F5.
Sir, on the keyboard, upper side F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. Please click F5.
F5. Yeah, please. I have pressed the F5 as well. Yeah, press the F5.
सर प्लीज काइंडली इधर स्लाइड्स की वीडियो शो नहीं होगी, आप इसी तरह कंटिन्यू करें, बाद में शेयर कर दीजिएगा.
Well, I don't know what is the problem, with the slides. However, I give my presentation. I start my presentation. This is basically, COVID-19 impact with Pakistan agriculture. Agriculture is basically the contributing sector of the Pakistan. It's sharing the GDP 19%. That is the major source of, employment as well, about 38%. In Pakistan, nearly more than 100 crops being grown. And sector during the fiscal year 19-20 has recorded a very, strong growth of 2.67. And for the major crops they are shown in Pakistan is, cotton. It's during the 19-20 years, it's about 9.17 million beans being produced for cotton crop. And similarly, for sugar cane, we have 66 million tons of sugar cane being produced during the 2019-20. Similarly, rice production has shown upward trend, 7.4 million tons. Wheat production we have, stable. It's about 25 million tons being produced, and it is, for the domestic needs. Similarly, maize production is showing upward trend. It's about 7.23 million tons. Maize is produced during the last year in Pakistan. And similarly, the livestock subsector is also, major contributor toward the economy. Its livestock shares about 60% in the agriculture sector and about 11% to the GDP, overall GDP. And during the from last 2-3 years, Pakistan is seeing a rising trend in meat production and milk production as well. And then, I have, COVID-19 implications because I am an agriculture economist. So I, focused data on the price data, because markets are the, right places, for resource allocation or, for decision making by the farmers. So it's nearly during the post, what you call pre-pandemic period or during the pandemic period, high-speed diesel prices, basically which is used during agriculture by the tractors, threshers, and tubers, that has shown about 16% decline in the high-speed diesel prices. And in the same way, the policy rate or the Karachi Internal Bank official rate that is declared by the State Bank on the on the loans, credit and agriculture credit, that has also shown it's nearly 34% decline. It's now it's prevailing the interest rate is 7%, so that interest rate has also fallen. In the same way, fertilizer prices, both what you call that urea and DAP. Urea has decreased by nearly 12%, and DAP prices have fallen nearly 5.48%. And this is also because the state is giving subsidy on these both inputs on credit as well on fertilizer and urea and DAP fertilizer. So this is also one of the reasons that their prices have fallen, has shown a declining trend. And similarly, now the commodity prices has I have taken the two food crops, particularly the wheat crop. Wheat supply during what you call during the pre-pandemic period from March to September 2019, it was about 3,500 quintals, and that had decreased to about 3,000 quintals, and it has shown a 5% decline in the wheat arrivals in the markets. And similarly, the wheat prices, they have also during the there's a difference between the pre-pandemic and during the pandemic period. Wheat prices has it's shown upward trend. During the pandemic period, it has increased. It's about 51% wheat prices has gone up. And similarly, the rice supply has over the period, if we compare it with the pre-pandemic period and the what you call the during the pandemic period, the rice arrivals, rice supply has also decreased by about 12% in the markets. And the what you call prices, rice prices have also shown upward trend during the pandemic period. That prices have gone, it's nearly 8% upward trend. And similarly, there are few vegetables, onion, what you call onion supply, has during the pre-pandemic period, if we compare it with the pre-pandemic period, during the pandemic period, that has gone down. It's nearly 5%. Wheat supply has reduced in the market. What you call onion supply has reduced. And in case of prices, onion prices have shown during the during the pandemic period has shown upward trends. Nearly 5% prices has gone up. And similarly, the other major vegetable, that is the potato. Potato supply during the pandemic period, if we compared it with the pre-pandemic period, has reduced about 19%. And it's very strange that potato prices during the pandemic period has gone up. It's nearly 115%. It's a huge rise in the potato prices. This is not only, I think, it also caused because of the general inflation, pandemic, and sometimes harsh weather also impact on the growth of the crop. These all other environmental factors also cause that. So these are all because of all these factors, they have also caused the decrease in supply of potato and a huge increase in the prices of potato. Similarly, in case of what you call another important vegetable is the tomato. Tomato supply has gone up. It's about 14% during the pandemic period that tomato supply has increased in the markets. But the prices, what you call prices, also shown upward trend that tomato prices have increased about 8%. If we compare it with the pre-pandemic period, the tomato prices have increased about 8%. Similarly, what you call cucumber and ladyfinger prices, both nearly has increased during the pandemic period by it's nearly 20%. Similarly, I have took some two major pulses, gram and masoor. Gram, what you call gram supply has increased over the pandemic period by 9%, but the gram prices, has reduced. It's nearly 12%. Masoor, that is also one of the pulses in case of quantity and in case of prices. It has shown both upward trend, that is supply has also increased in the markets during the pandemic period, and its prices has also shown an upward trend. So this was it was a short presentation. This was all about, and what are the measures? No doubt that during the pandemic period, agriculture commodity markets in Pakistan, they have shown a stable trend. In some commodities we have seen that there is a supply shortage has occurred, but state has during the whole pandemic period, the agriculture commodity market was remained open. But supply shocks also occurred because of the transportation available to bring the farmers. They have faced issues to bring commodity to the market because of the transportation issues. Otherwise, these markets remain open, and because of the food security issue, government has not intervened so much in these markets, and these markets were smooth running. So basically, some other measures government has taken regarding to agriculture sector, as we have already seen that policy rate, interest rate being on agriculture credit being reduced, and similarly refinancing scheme being introduced for the farmers. Similarly some government has announced this about 277 billion rupees package for the uplift of the agriculture sector. Similarly, some tax cuts being made by the state on the import of agriculture machinery. On these because of the upward downward trend in the international market, the diesel prices have also gone down. These were, and similarly for small agribusiness firms, government has central bank has also given some they have given some interest rate relaxation, credit refinance schemes being introduced for these firms. If we talk about overall scenario, overall scenario of Pakistan agriculture commodity shows that during this pandemic period, agriculture overall agriculture was stable, and very few shocks, supply shocks been occurred. But overall, it is the sector has shown a positive trend. So this was all from my side. If somebody unfortunate, I don't know what the presentation has not been shared. Any question, please?
Thank you, Police sir, for your informative presentation. You have masterly portrayed the comparative scenario of agriculture in Pakistan in pre-pandemic and pandemic situation. It has been an eye-opening lecture and enriching as well. Now the session is open for question. The session is open for question. If anyone feels unwell to write in the chat box, you can unmute the audio and ask directly to the speaker.
Sir, myself from Annadhara from Madras College, Chennai.
Yes.
I have one doubt from the professor. Can I put forward my question?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Okay. What is the status of the agricultural labor in Pakistan, sir, during the COVID time? There is any compensation given by the government? What is the lifespan?
Government has, particularly the labor which is employed in the agriculture sector, because it was working in the rural areas. So there was not so much issue of the, unemployment of the labor in the agriculture sector. But the farming families, the member of the farming families who are employed in the urban sectors, they have lost their jobs. They have gone back to the, to their rural areas, and that has a burden on the rural economy. Otherwise, the farmers or the rural labor who is engaged in the agriculture sector, they have not shown any, severe impact on the job market in the rural economy.
Okay. But my question is, Professor, because that agricultural labor, they lost their employment opportunity, not for the farmers, the agricultural laborers, since
No,
they don't have
agriculture.
the laborer.
No, what I am saying that because agriculture, the farmers, they are operative, they are growing vegetable, fruits and crops. So the labor they are employed as the casual labor or the permanent labor, they are hiring. So in case of rural economy, the labor employment is not the issue. It is the issue in the urban economy basically.
Okay. Okay, Professor. Thank you.
Any more question from the participants? If anyone wants to ask directly, you can. Yes, Mr. Sir, you can ask.
Professor Khalid, I listen, Pakistan has not adopted the lockdown measures to tackle the COVID. But what is the reason, to tackle the, COVID situation?
No, what I am saying that in general, Pakistan they have adopted restrictions. There were all the measures being taken to combat with the COVID-19. But what I was telling that agriculture commodity markets, because they deal with the daily consumption of the food items, so they remain open. Commodity, because of some ban on restrictions on the transport, there was some supply shocks. Otherwise, these commodity markets, wholesale agriculture, fruit and vegetable and agriculture markets, they will remain open. Commodity can.
Yeah. When
cities being locked.
Yeah.
Please.
Can I add another question? In our case, COVID-19 has a least impact on agriculture sector. What is the impact on Pakistan's agriculture sector, small and also the large agriculture sector, including the agriculture farms?
No, majority of the in agriculture Pakistan we have the small farmers. It's more than 80% of the farmers they own less than 5 hectares of land, less than 12.5 acres of land, and their corporate farming is also coming up. So there is some effect, partial impact is there on the agriculture sector, but agriculture sector was not so much impacted as the other sectors of the economy.
Can it support and to reduce minimize the slowdown in industrial and the service sector in Pakistan?
Yeah, there are government has there are some monetary.
No, I'm not talking about the government. Is agriculture able to contribute to minimize the slowdown in industrial and also the service sectors?
Yeah. Agriculture, it's about 60% of our population is in the rural areas. So agriculture is contributing towards textile sector, to the what you call sugar industry, and it's providing raw material to the manufacturing sector. So agriculture basically is the raw material provider sector, and it has a contribution towards the growth of our manufacturing sector. And similarly, agriculture, is also a huge sector of the economy. It's about 20% share in the GDP. So it has a huge market of the rural economy, and that is also contributing towards the services sector.
One last question. Pakistan and China have a good pact, good diplomatic relationship, and also the certain pacts also. And China has successfully controlled COVID-19. At present moment, has China contributed or they cooperated to Pakistan to fight against the COVID?
In case, state, we have, I don't have so much of knowledge that, but in case of agriculture, I can clarify that along the CPAC route, it's nearly 30 or 31, what you call that, agriculture processing zones being identified, where both Chinese and Pakistani companies and investors from the world, they are coming to invest on agro processing zones along the CPAC route. and that is also that is one of the initiative by the state and the Chinese government to boost the agriculture sector of Pakistan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, there is a question from Uzmal Afzal. What are the government initiatives to support the stockholders as well as farmers?
Government initiative basically in case of we have support price mechanism for wheat crop. Government gives support price to the farmers to procure wheat at this given support prices. And similarly, recently government has has given subsidy on electricity fuels, on fertilizer, urea and DAP fertilizer, both fertilizers. Government has given subsidized that, and similarly, on credit policy rate, government has reduced that cost of agricultural lending. So these were the few initiatives that government has subsidizing the agriculture sector.
There is a question from Muhammad Uzair Azam. During COVID situation, government of Pakistan did not announce subsidies for farmers to support next crops. How can we deal this situation? Sir, let me finish. How can we deal this situation by providing financial and technological support to farmers? Question posed by Muhammad Uzair Azam.
Now, government is basically giving subsidy. Government has subsidized the electricity rates for fuels for farming fuels, and similarly, government has given subsidy on fertilizers that are main inputs, and government is also providing subsidized seeds to the farmers as well. And government are also on cost-based sharing. Government is also providing farm implements to the farmers, farm machinery. So government is subsidizing to some extent to the farming community, and also giving some support mechanism. Government is investing in the market to road village infrastructure as well as village electrification, on soft loans, on subsidized credit. Government has started a project to give subsidized credit to the farmers, and similarly, government has started. State Bank of Pakistan has started a crop insurance scheme as well, and livestock insurance scheme as well. So government is subsidizing farmers.
Okay, sir. There is a question from Dr. A. Annadurai from Madras. How the distribution taking place during COVID-19, especially in agricultural products?
No, during in March, in Pakistan, the first case of that pandemic had been come forward, and during April, May, there was a restrictions on the mobility of the transportation issue was there, and that has resulted in the rise supply shortage in the markets as well, and then is an increase in the price. After that after initial 2 months, that becomes stable. Now the markets are stable.
Oh. Sir, there is a basic question. How far the agricultural activities has enhanced the economy of Pakistan? There is a question by Dicky Lama.
Yeah, agriculture is the basic sector of the economy. If there is activity is a two-way sector. Agriculture sector also provides the inputs to the manufacturing sector, and similarly, actually, there's 60% of the population in the rural area that has engaged with the agriculture. They also provides the big market for the manufacturing products. So agriculture sector is basically has a role in the stimulation of the economy, and is stimulating in the economy.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is no more questions in the chat box. So there are a lot of praises, appreciation, and compliments for you, sir, in both of the chat box in YouTube and Gmeet. So as there is no question, thanks on behalf of myself for presenting such a nice lecture, and for being with us in this technical session of the first day of this international webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chakrabarti, for you and for your team. It's really, you have done a remarkable job. It's really, and good night and good wishes from me for all the viewers. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sir, if possible, be with us tomorrow, if possible, sir.
I have not followed your question.
Sir, if possible, please be with us tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, I'll look for tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Sir,
Thank you
sir,
very much. Thank
sir,
you.
one, sir,
Sir,
one
there is a
more-
question from Dr. Annadwai.
No question, sir. I request for the organizer, kindly forward PPT for all the registered delegates, sir, participants.
Oh, okay.
Very informative. because
I
we
will
get
forward
more
to the Chakrabarti and he can share with all the
Yeah,
viewers.
all the
Yes.
resource persons. Yes, sir. That will be very
I'll
useful.
just
Okay,
forward
sir.
it now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our technical session ends here. Now it is time to deliver vote of thanks and declare the end of the today's webinar. And now I request Dr. Binay Saxena, Principal, Kishan PG College, Bahrain, UP, India, to deliver vote of thanks. And Dr. Saxena will also declare the end of today's webinar. Please, sir, I hand over the session to Dr. Saxena, Principal of Kishan PG College. Please, sir. Sir, please unmute your audio. Sir, please unmute your audio. Sir, you are not audible, sir. Please unmute your audio, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Arindam. So in this final session, I am here on behalf of Suddhi Ranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya and Kisan Postgraduate College, Bahrain. First of all, so in this valedictory session, hardly I will take 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So now start this session with this following remark. Honorable Secretary of Kisan PG College, Major Dr. S.P. Singh, the stars of the today's session, our resource persons, the members of whole organizing team, technical persons and participants, a very good evening to all of you. I am feeling very delighted to have the opportunity to convey my vote of thanks to all the dignitaries. I would like to thank to respected Sri Sunil Kumar Biswas,
President of Governing Body SRLM for his inaugural address, Dr. Somnath Bandyopadhyay for delivering wonderful welcome address, and Dr. Srilata Biswas for her introductory address. I convey my special thanks for the special address by Major Dr. S.P. Singh, Secretary of Managing Committee, KPGC, Bahrain. Now I am very much delighted while thanking Professor Muhammad Abdul Badood from Rajshahi University, Bangladesh, for delivering wonderful talk on trade and economic development in SAARC countries. I am highly thankful to Dr. Maheska Disanaike from Rajrata University, Sri Lanka, for her wonderful talk on tourism recovery and resilience during COVID-19 outbreak. I also my warm thanks to Dr. Khalid Mustaq from University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan, for enlightening the relation between COVID-19 and agriculture. Finally, I am highly thankful to Dr. Arindam Chakravarti and Dr. Rajveer Singh and other organizing team member for organizing this wonderful event. My special thanks to all the participants whose presence gives the real meaning to this event. At last, from the bottom of the heart, I convey my thanks to each and everyone who is directly or indirectly involved to make this event successful. Now, I declare the closing of today's session. Thank you. Now over to Arindam, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. So the webinar of this today's international webinar comes to an end today. So we'll be assembled together tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the evening or in the afternoon. So please stay safe, stay healthy in such a pandemic time, in such a testing time. Thank you all.
Hello. Sir, seminar is finished.